of the Israeli bar. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Nick, who's going to take us on a journey this evening. First, kind of walking through Guest Invest and really addressing some of the questions which I just raised and others that you can pose to him along the way. And then Sarah's going to follow on to sort of analyze, I guess it would be fair to say, Guest Invest model maybe against other models that are out there and the competition. So. Over to you.
Here you go. Firstly, start off with an apology from Johnny again, but also it's quite a very good chance to talk about Johnny as the person, the director who set up this company and also brought this condo hotels to Britain. Now, the reason and the story behind that is Johnny was a very, very, very successful entrepreneur in the buy-to-let market. He did phenomenally well and achieved kind of rewards and figures and finances of personal wealth, which we would all aspire to. At that point then, he then moved out into more the commercial property world, but he still liked anywhere where you could sleep. That was his mantra. He believed that if you invest in somewhere where people sleep, you'll always have a market for it. So the logical step is to go into hotels. Now Johnny's fortunate enough to have a lot of wealth that he could then go about the business of buying an individual hotel and getting yields from that. Individual hotels, obviously, you may catch in the newspapers, they start around £20 million, £40 million, £80 million. In fact, actually, last week we just extended our portfolio about £100 million just buying two other assets in central London. And he did that because of the yields and the revenue which the hotel market is making. He then realised that he made this journey from the buy-to-let market where all yield compression exerted itself into the hotel side, and he was fortunate because he had the wealth to be able to do that and access that. But he realised he is one of those people who beats the path. So he wondered, how can I then allow the people who have experienced and had a lot of success in the buy-to-let to move on and share this market, which I find very active, the hotel market, which is then to fractionalise it. So he looked across over to the States and saw what they were doing there, liked the idea, presented it to other colleagues within the business, and everyone said, that's ridiculous, you won't be able to do that in Britain, etc., etc., etc. Johnny, an entrepreneur again, and has that nature never to stop, set about the task of actually putting his money where his mouth is. And right at the core of our business started off with a contract which was set between Clifford Chance and Bernard Leighton Paisner, where he set them with his own money to go about the business of dividing a contract where you could have a hotel with multiple owners owning that actual building. You can imagine that there's cheaper ways of doing that than commissioning Clifford Chance and Bernard Leighton Paisner to do that. He wanted to make sure he used the very best people in the business to go about doing that, and expense was not spared. So the day came when the contract came to place, and Bernard Leighton Paisner acts on behalf of the room owners, so the investors, and on the other side, Clifford Chance acts on behalf of the hotel management company. Both, you imagine the kind of stigma, the kind of kudos that bravado between these lawyers, both trying to outdo each other, battle of minds. And when they came up to Johnny, it's fantastic, we made this contract, here's our bill, by the way, we've managed to forage a little way here for you, and vice versa on the other side. Well, Johnny said, that's not it, you haven't finished, and he swapped the papers over. And so, then Clifford Chance started acting on behalf of the room owners, and Bernard Leighton Paisner started acting on behalf of the hotel management company. And what he then did, he created this product which I'm about to go through to you, which is very much a new asset class, which right from the very beginning took the best from what it saw over in the States and around the world to create what I believe is a very clear and transparent asset class, where individuals can own a hotel room. Okay? Quick story about how I'm going to present. I'm, as I mentioned, Director of Business Development, along with Tim Clark. My background is Barclays Capital, and before that I was at Accenture, so very much the financial side, along with Tim Clark, who is a director at Warburgs. We don't sell it to individuals like the people who you said, handing out flyers. We sell very much to property funds and pension funds, which nicely answers your last three questions. Actually, it's quite fortuitous. Today, I was showing the first investor round who invested 10 million in the first hotel. A very small amount, but very much a dip in the toe. And they're the third largest property fund in the world who's invested into that. Another two property funds have also invested, and so the combined share of £47 million of a hotel book of £120 million of investors. So when I go through this, I'm not going to talk about the warm and cuddly aspects of do you own a nice property in Blake, for example, one of the new hotels, or do you own a nice property in the city. I'm going to go about the numbers and talk about why, from a financial point of view, it makes a sound investment. And it opens up your exposure to a different market as opposed to just, for example, traditional buy-to-let. Now, you mentioned a lot of questions at the beginning. I hope you covered a few, but as I go through, I'll never be able to remember or answer all of them. So just please shout them out or just plonk them in at the end. I'm going to dance around this presentation, but I don't see. Does anyone have any idea if I can sort of turn some of these lights?
Yeah, I can do that.
Hope it's become clearer when the lights come down a bit. So, who is Best Invest and what are they all about? But just a quick show of hands, who's heard about our company within London? It's quite an incredibly strong percentage when you think about a business which has only been running in earnest for 3 years. And actually, in my opinion, the real defining moment was when we became a joint venture with the Bank of Scotland. And that was in the last quarter of last year. What are we trying to do? And why? Well, this is very, very important for you to understand when we talk about the condo hotel side. We are trying to set up a debt-free hotel chain. That is where our ambitions are. So what we want to do is, instead of the formal traditional routes, which you'll hear about or will likely understand, which is the sale and lease back, where there's this minimum figure to be passed back, we want to run a debt-free hotel chain, which allows us to acquire a hotel, bring it up to the standard which we operate and want to run it at, sell the individual rooms off, and the point it goes live, it becomes a debt-free hotel, so then we can then release that cash to go and buy another hotel elsewhere. Okay. Just a couple of other points to note. We've now got a $250 million portfolio, and our target is, along with the Joint Venture Bank of Scotland, to have 1.1 billion assets under management within 5 years. I'm not covering everything in here because it won't all apply, but if there's something which you like the look of and want me to dive into, put your hand up and just shout. So, what is it you're actually being offered? You're being offered, and all these hotels are in central London, but there's no reason why that differs as we go overseas, a 999-year lease on a hotel room in London, an individual one, so room 109, 506, whichever one it is. Okay? It's important to know that because you derive a revenue from every time someone stays in your room. So every time someone stays in your room, you get 50% of what that room goes for. Okay? It's a 50-50 split, complete alignment of interests. It's in our interest as much as your interest to rent that room out for as high as possible room rates and for the highest possible occupancy rate. Okay? You then are eligible to stay in your room for 52 free nights. I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to dwell on things which are about the property side, but it just, what this does do, and I'll explain later, is it opens up the type of people who have an interest in this, which then covers very nicely why liquidity has a very strong story. On the liquidity side, you can hold it in your SIP, which is another reason why people like this. Now, the 50-50 split, what happens is from that 50-50 split, we then, from our 50%, we then go about business of running that hotel. So we put the chambermaids in, we place the beds, we insure the place, so for example, if something happens to the building, you have loss of earnings. We also market it, and we also keep it in an A1 condition. So from that 50%, we go about business of replacing the bed, the soft furnishings, let's say the plasma screen rates, all that comes out of our 50%. Okay? The only other contribution which you make is £500 for the major sinking funds. Now, the major sinking fund is very specifically detailed what that can and can't be used for within a lease, and that's the infrastructure buildings such as the roof, the central heating, that nature. So, the 50-50 split, all the costs coming out of our side, means that what essentially this asset is, like all assets which people are after, it's just an income stream. Now, that income stream happens to be a direct investment into commercial property in the heart of London's hotel market, and that's where you get the reassurance, and that's why people are liking this investment. Because if you're trying to make an investment on an income stream, you've got to understand, will that market still be there in the future? And one thing which is lovely about buying in London is, there's an undersupplied hotel rooms, and the city has many different factors to it, such as from the business side and both the tourism side. And also there's a finite amount of space, so that building itself has a fantastic worth. We'll cover that a bit more with other sectors. So everyone clear just up the high-end things. You make revenue just from your room, you make 50% of that revenue, you make revenue whenever someone's in your room. Now you know people who use your room because the rooms are rotating on least use, next use basis. So quite simply, I was presenting to a firm of IFAs the other day, and they talked about what would happen if the Hotel Babylon situation happened, and someone came in and they smashed the room and broke the TV. Well, in that situation, your room will be out of occupation for the time that we spend to redo that room. So we will replace the plasma screen.